At a crowded train station, billionaire Ethan Blake freezes when a little girl looks up at him and asks, "Are you my real dad?" She is holding the hand of Lila, the woman who went missing 7 years ago. Suddenly, buried memories, unanswered questions, and a truth long hidden come crashing into the present. As past and future collide, one innocent question threatens to change everything. Is it too late for redemption? Or is this fate's second chance? The cold wind whipped through the open platform as the train station buzzed with the rhythm of a weekday morning. Suitcases rolled, loudspeakers crackled with departure times, and hurried footsteps echoed beneath the steel and glass canopy. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, its tinted window gliding down with a soft hum. Ethan Blake stepped out, tall and composed, dressed in a tailored charcoal coat over a dark three-piece suit. The phone pressed to his ear barely moved as he barked out precise instructions. "No, move the meeting to 11 o'clock sharp. Tell Morgan I will not tolerate another delay." His voice cut through the noise, commanding yet distant. He had built empires, signed billion-dollar contracts, and reshaped cities. But nothing in his world had prepared him for what happened next. As he turned, someone, stopped him in his tracks. She was standing near platform 4. A woman in a simple beige coat, her auburn hair tucked under a knitted hat, her posture graceful, her gaze downcast as she adjusted the straps of a small pink backpack on a little girl. The little girl, no more than 6 years old, clung to her hand with casual familiarity. Her curls danced in the wind, her cheeks flushed from the cold. There was something eerily familiar about her face, something that made Ethan's stomach twist. His voice trailed off mid-sentence. The phone slipped from his hand, landing on the pavement with a dull thud. "Lila," he whispered. The woman looked up, her eyes locked onto his. For a fleeting second, time seemed to stop. The noise of the station dulled, the motion slowed, and all Ethan could hear was the deafening thud of his own heartbeat. She froze too, recognition flooding her face. Panic flickered in her eyes. She turned quickly, as if to shield the child, but the girl had already seen him. With quiet curiosity, she stepped forward, her small boots tapping softly against the concrete. She walked right up to Ethan, head tilted, inspecting his face the way only children can, with utter innocence and brutal honesty. "Are you my real dad?" she asked. The world went silent. Ethan could not move. He could not breathe. That tiny voice sliced through years of silence and buried memories. The girl's wide eyes stared into his, and in that moment, he saw everything. Lila's smile, his own gaze reflected back at him, 1,000 unspoken truths unraveling at once. His knees felt weak. It cannot be is this my child? 7 years ago, Ethan Blake was already well on his way to becoming a legend in the business world. At only 29 years old, he had launched and sold 2 tech startups and was already making waves with the Blake Group, a rapidly growing real estate and hospitality empire. Precision, control, and silence were his weapons. He was the kind of man who answered calls during dinners and signed deals during funerals. People admired him, but no one really knew him. Then came Lila Hart. She had stumbled into his life at a downtown charity gala, where she was painting live on canvas as part of an art installation. Her dress was vintage, her hair messily pinned, and she laughed too loudly for that room of polished strangers. Ethan had been irritated at first, then intrigued, and then helplessly drawn. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, vibrant, playful, stubbornly idealistic. A freelance illustrator scraping by, juggling commissions and bar shifts, dreaming of publishing her own children's books. She teased him relentlessly, called his penthouse a museum without warmth, and once said, "You look like someone who forgot how to live because he is too busy winning." He had laughed that night, really laughed. For the first time in years, they became inseparable. He brought her to board meetings, and she brought him to food trucks and art shows. She painted tiny doodles on his coffee cups. He bought her canvas when she could not afford groceries. They fit like mismatched puzzle pieces that made unexpected sense. But love did not save them from the world. Ethan's mother, cold and calculating, saw Lila as a threat to their family's pristine image. "She does not belong in our circle," she had warned. "She will ruin you." Meanwhile, Ethan, obsessed with expansion, always strategizing, began missing dates, canceling plans, and replacing late-night conversations with late-night flights. Lila, always independent but quietly yearning, started to shrink beside him. Then one day, she vanished. No calls, no letters, no explanations. Back in the present, the air was thick with unsaid words. Ethan watched Lila turn away as if trying to shield herself, to disappear again. But she was not alone this time. The little girl clung to her side, mischievous eyes, a sharp little nose, and a defiant confidence that tugged at something inside him. His mind spun back to the last night they had been together. She had cried, quietly, after he walked out to take a call during dinner. He never returned to the table. He had not even noticed she had gone until hours later. In his memory, he heard her voice again. You always say I matter, but your actions never agree. He never chased her. He had assumed she left because she could not handle his world. Now, watching her hug the child tightly, Ethan's chest ached with something he could not name. He tried to remember if she had ever shown signs, anything to hint at the truth. But there had been nothing. Or maybe he had simply not looked close enough. The girl, Mia, he would later learn, was clever, talkative, and disarmingly aware. She made up words when she could not find the right ones. She asked questions no one was prepared to answer. And she adored her mother. Lila had raised her in a modest apartment above a florist shop, working as a receptionist by day and illustrating children's books at night. She never complained. She never asked for help. She told bedtime stories with painted characters on bedroom walls. She took Mia to museums instead of malls. They laughed often, loudly, the way Ethan had once loved. Despite the struggle, Lila never grew bitter. She simply kept going. Now, the three of them stood at the edge of a moment that neither time nor silence could erase, and Ethan wondered, was it too late to reclaim what he had lost? Lila walked swiftly down the station's corridor, her hand wrapped tightly around Mia's. Her pace was too quick for a casual stroll, too tense to ignore. Ethan followed from a short distance behind, weaving through the crowd, his heart pounding harder with every step. He finally caught up to them just outside the station exit, near a row of parked bicycles and newspaper stands. Lila, he said, his voice firm but low, barely containing the storm within. She turned slowly, eyes guarded, shoulders tense. Mia looked up, sensing something strange in the air. I need to talk to you, Ethan said. Now. Lila crouched beside Mia and whispered gently, Sweetheart, can you go sit on that bench over there and read your book? I will be right here. I promise. Mia nodded and skipped away, though her eyes lingered, watchful and curious. Lila straightened and crossed her arms. You should not have followed me. You should not have disappeared, he countered. You owe me answers. Lila took a slow breath, her expression unreadable. You want answers? She said. Fine. I found out I was pregnant about 3 weeks after we ended things. You were already flying to Hong Kong. I was still packing my things. Why did you not tell me? Ethan asked, voice rising. I had the right to know. You had a right? Lila repeated, incredulous. The last time I saw you, you walked out in the middle of dinner to take a call. You did not come back. I waited for 3 hours. And the next morning, I found out from your assistant that you had already left the country. You could have reached out. You could have too, she said, quieter now. But you never did. Not once. Ethan's jaw clenched. The memory stung. But something did not add up. I never got any messages. No calls. No letters. I sent you a letter, Lila said. 2, actually. I even called your office. No one ever responded. Ethan stepped back, his eyes narrowing. A memory stirred. His mother's assistant, Elise, screening his personal mail, telling him Lila had moved on. You said nothing for 7 years, he said. You made a decision for both of us. I made the only decision I could with the information I had, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I was scared, yes, but I was not going to chase a man who had clearly chosen his world over me. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. The guilt was sharp, but so was the anger. You had no right to decide for both of us, he said. No matter what you thought I did. Before Lila could reply, a soft voice interrupted. Why are you arguing? They turned to see Mia standing just a few steps away, clutching her book to her chest. Mommy, is he mad at you? Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart, Lila said quickly, kneeling to Mia's level. No, You did nothing wrong. Everything is fine. Mia looked at Ethan, eyes wide. Is he really my daddy? Lila hesitated. Ethan dropped to one knee. I do. Not know yet. But I hope we can figure that out. Together. The moment hung heavy in the air, fragile and sacred. Hours later, in the echoing halls of the Blake estate, Ethan's mother stood stiffly in the center of her drawing room, her silver hair perfectly styled, her pearl earrings gleaming under the chandelier. She resurfaced? She said, brows arched. With a child? Ethan nodded. Her name is Mia. She says Lila is the mother. His mother's face hardened. I want a paternity test, she said. Immediately. There is no need to be aggressive. Ethan replied. She could ruin everything, she snapped. Your name, your business, your legacy. We need to protect what we have built. If that child is yours, we will take full custody. We have the means. Ethan stared at her, stunned. She is not a threat. She is a 6-year-old girl, raised by a woman who left you in disgrace. I do not want your lawyers touching them, he said quietly, dangerously. His mother's lips pressed into a thin line, but the battle had only just begun. The cafe was quiet except for the soft clink of spoons against porcelain and the occasional hiss of the espresso machine. Ethan sat across from Lila at a small corner table by the window. Outside, the city blurred beneath a drizzle of early spring rain, but inside, the air was thick with something unspoken. Lila reached into her worn leather bag and pulled out an envelope. Its edges were slightly frayed, and the paper had yellowed faintly with time. She slid it across the table toward him. I wrote this 7 years ago, she said. I never sent it. Ethan stared at it, hesitant, then slowly picked it up and unfolded the single sheet inside. Her handwriting was unmistakable, graceful, looping, exactly as he remembered it from sticky notes and birthday cards long gone. Ethan, if you are reading this, I guess I finally found the courage to speak to you. The way I could not in person. I am pregnant. I found out 2 weeks after you left for Hong Kong. I tried calling, but Elise kept telling me you were unavailable. I tried your personal line, disconnected. I sent letters. No reply. I even waited outside your office one day, but they would not let me in. I do not want anything from you. I am scared, but I will be all right. I just thought you had the right to know. You once told me you had no family, only shareholders. I hope someday that changes. Lila, the words blurred slightly as Ethan read, and for a long moment, he said nothing. The room seemed to shrink around him. I never saw this, he said, finally. I never heard a single word. Lila nodded slowly. I believe you. He looked up. Elise, my assistant. You mentioned her. She was always polite. Lila said, but cold. I found out later that she was working closely with your mother. Ethan's stomach twisted. He remembered the way Elise had always filtered his mail, always taking care of distractions, as his mother liked to call them. At the time, it had felt efficient, necessary. Now it felt like theft. You tried, he said quietly. I did, she replied. But after the third ignored message, I stopped trying. I thought, maybe you did not care. Maybe you had already moved on. I never moved on, Ethan said, more to himself than to her. I just buried it. Buried you. Silence lingered. Between them. I raised her alone, Lila added softly. It was not easy, but I never once regretted it. Ethan looked out the window. The drizzle had thickened into steady rain. People hurried by with umbrellas. Inside, he felt a storm far stronger brewing within him. He had spent years building a legacy, a fortune, a name, and all along, he had missed the chance to build something far more important, a life, a family. That he folded the letter slowly, with care this time, and slid it into the pocket over his heart. I should have fought harder for you, he said. I should have known something was wrong. It is not about blame anymore, Lila replied. It is about what we do now. For the first time, Ethan did not have an answer, but he knew he would not let this second chance slip through his fingers, not again. Ethan stood in his office overlooking the skyline, the weight of the letter still resting in his breast pocket like a live wire against his chest. Days had passed since he had read Lila's words, but their impact had only grown stronger. Every time he blinked, he saw Mia's face, curious, bright, full of questions. I want to be in her life, he said to his attorney. Then we will need to petition for custody, the lawyer replied. Your mother is already drafting a proposal. Ethan turned sharply. My mother does not speak for me. Later that evening, in the marble confines of the Blake estate, his mother set down her teacup with a deliberate clink. You are being emotional, Ethan, she said. This woman, this Lila, hid a child from you. She has no resources, no influence, no stability. And now you want to trust her with the future of your bloodline. She raised Mia on her own, he said, biting back his frustration. With no help, no support, and no complaint. That is strength, not weakness. She raised her in a one-bedroom apartment above a flower shop, his mother snapped. You want your daughter growing up surrounded by mediocrity? I want her to grow up surrounded by love, he replied. His mother stood. Then we will file for full custody. Ethan's world tilted. He felt the clash of two realities. The ruthless world he had built, with polished boardrooms and leather-bound contracts, and Mia's world, which he had only just begun to glimpse. That world was painted in soft colors and loud laughter, bedtime stories on cramped mattresses, mismatched mugs filled with cocoa, and lullabies sung by a tired but gentle voice that he made his choice. I will not fight Lila, he said. If I go to court, it will be to support her, not to take her daughter away. But Lila was already preparing her defense. In a small courtroom 2 weeks later, Lila sat at a plain wooden table, alone. She wore a simple navy dress, and her hair was pinned back. Her hands trembled as she held her notes. But her voice was clear. I am not wealthy. I do not have a nanny or a driver. I work long hours and sometimes I am late picking Mia up from school. But she has never gone hungry. She has never lacked for love. I may not be the perfect mother, but I am the only one she has known. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes, nodded thoughtfully. Ethan watched from the gallery. His mother sat beside him, stone-faced. When it was Ethan's turn, he stood before the court. I am new to this, he admitted. I only learned of Mia recently. But in that short time, she has shown me more truth than most adults ever have. I have made mistakes, many of them. But I want the chance to be a father. Not instead of Lila. Alongside her, Lila looked at him, surprised. Later, they sat outside on the courthouse steps, exhaustion etched into both their faces. You really meant that? She asked quietly. I did, Ethan said. I do not want to take her away from you. I want to be part of her world. Yours, too. Lila exhaled, the tension in her shoulders softening slightly. I do not know what that looks like. Neither do I, he said. But maybe we can figure it out. That night, Mia sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by crayons and open books. She looked up at her mother and then at Ethan, who sat awkwardly beside a stuffed bear, his tie loosened and one sock missing. Do I have to choose? She asked, frowning. Lila and Ethan exchanged a glance. No, Ethan said gently. You do not. Mia tilted her head. Because I want both my mom and my maybe dad. Can I have that? Lila knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. We are going to try our best, sweet girl. Mia smiled, satisfied, and returned to coloring as the lamp cast a soft glow over the three of them. Ethan realized he had never felt more terrified, or more certain, of what he wanted. Not a merger, not a legacy. A family. Ethan stood in front of the mirror holding a pink plastic comb, his face contorted in deep concentration. Mia sat on a stool in front of him, her legs swinging, hair cascading down her back in tangles that refused to cooperate. Are you trying to build a nest in there? She asked with a giggle. I am following the tutorial. Ethan muttered, glancing at his phone propped on the bathroom counter, playing a video titled How to Braid Hair in 3 Simple Steps. Lila leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. Her laughter came softly, like a breeze he had forgotten the feel of. You can buy a yacht, but cannot braid her hair, she teased. He looked up, sheepish. I negotiated a $500 million merger last year, and somehow this is harder. You are pulling it too tight, she said, walking over and gently guiding his hands. Here, like this. See, he watched her, how her hands moved, how her voice dropped when she spoke to Mia, how effortlessly she blended strength with tenderness. He had never really stopped loving her, and now, it was happening again. In the small things. The way she hummed while washing dishes, the way she listened without judgment, the way she still teased him like she had nothing to prove. That he started spending more time at her apartment. pancakes on Sunday mornings, trips to the zoo, story time in a makeshift blanket fort. But his world was fraying at the edges that he missed 2 investor briefings in 1 week. Canceled a meeting with the Tokyo office last minute. His staff grew restless. The board began to ask questions that he found himself caring less about profits and more about bedtime routines. Then the call came. His mother's voice on the line was clipped and cold. "We need to talk. Now." He met her in her private study, where family portraits stared down like silent witnesses. "You are throwing away everything we built," she said. "Your reputation, your name, your future. All for what? For a child you just met? For a woman who once walked away?" Ethan stood still, his hands at his sides. "She did not walk away," he said. "We pushed her out." His mother ignored him. "You have not attended a single board meeting this month. Our Paris deal is crumbling. Investors are pulling out. If this continues, you will be removed as CEO." He looked at her. "Then remove me." She blinked. "Excuse me. I will not leave them. You are making a mistake." "No," he said. "I made a mistake 7 years ago when I chose power over people. I will not do that again." His mother's face hardened. "If you walk out of here, you walk away from everything." He stared at her, the silence between them louder than any argument. Then he turned and walked. Later that night, he stood outside Lila's apartment, drenched from unexpected rain. She opened the door and paused, surprised. "Did something happen?" she asked. "I said no to her," Ethan replied, breathless. "To everything." Lila stared at him, wide-eyed. "I do not know where this goes," he said, voice raw. "I do not know if I am good at any of it. But I want to try. I want you. I want Mia. I want to show up every day and keep trying." For the first time in a long while, she said nothing. She simply stepped aside and let him in. The sleek, glass-walled boardroom buzzed with tension. 12 directors sat at the long mahogany table, papers spread, voices hushed. The Blake Group's quarterly meeting had begun 15 minutes earlier, but the CEO's chair remained empty. Then, the double doors swung open. Ethan walked in, dressed in a dark suit, but without his usual tie. On one side of him walked Lila, composed and calm in a cream blouse and slate skirt. On the other side was Mia, holding a small drawing in one hand and a cookie in the other. Whispers rippled through the room. He took his seat at the head of the table, Mia climbing onto a guest chair beside him. Lila stood behind her, a quiet pillar of support. "I will make this quick," Ethan began, his voice steady. "This company has meant everything to me. We have built something extraordinary here. But for the last few months, I have realized I have been missing something far more important." He glanced down at Mia, who offered him a half-eaten cookie. "I am stepping down as CEO. Temporarily." Gasps and murmurs echoed across the room. "I am not abandoning the company," Ethan clarified. "I will remain involved in a limited advisory role. But I am choosing to be present in my daughter's life. I am choosing to become the kind of man she deserves." An older board member, Mr. Harland, leaned back in his chair and gave a slow, thoughtful nod. "About time someone reminded us what really matters," he said. Ethan looked around the room, eyes locking with faces he had once fought beside in countless negotiations. No one challenged him. Not this time. That afternoon, Ethan packed up his penthouse office, the skyline view replaced by a modest home just 3 streets away from Lila's apartment. It had a small yard, a creaky front porch, and a kitchen that needed repainting. He loved it. He painted Mia's bedroom walls with her, laughing as she chose every shade of purple. He learned how to pack school lunches without forgetting juice boxes. He walked her to school in the mornings and waited outside with her favorite stuffed animal when she forgot it in the afternoon. Lila watched from a distance at first, wary, cautious, but she could not deny the change. He no longer disappeared behind phone calls or hid behind power. He was there. One evening, after Mia had fallen asleep curled up between them on the couch, Lila whispered, "You are really doing this." Ethan looked at her, his voice low. "I would give up everything, just to keep showing up." And slowly, without fanfare or promises, trust began to bloom again, quiet and real. The gallery lights dimmed softly, casting a warm glow over a row of canvases hung with careful precision. The space was small, intimate, nothing like the grand exhibits Ethan used to sponsor, but every inch of it was alive with color, imagination, and heart. Each painting told a story. A little girl and her mother beneath a tree of stars. A worn sofa covered in books and toys. A woman standing in the rain, laughing with her face turned upward. It was Lila's world, honest, vibrant, and full of life. Guests murmured with admiration as they wandered the exhibit. Some clutched glasses of sparkling water, others jotted notes in small notebooks. But in the middle of it all stood Lila, frozen in awe. She turned in a slow circle, her hand covering her mouth. Her eyes shimmered with disbelief. "You did this?" she asked, breathless. Ethan stepped forward from behind a curtain, his suit simple but sharp, his eyes gentle. "I just made a few calls," he said. "The rest? That was all you." She looked around again. "I have not shown my work in years." "I know," he said. "You gave it up to raise our daughter. But your art deserves to be seen. You deserve to be seen." The room quieted as he stepped onto the small wooden stage set in the center. A microphone waited. He cleared his throat. "I spent most of my life thinking success meant winning, climbing, building higher. I was wrong." He looked directly at Lila, then at Mia, who stood beside one of the larger paintings, holding a juice box and smiling shyly. "This woman taught me what real strength looks like," he said. "Not the kind you find in boardrooms or bank accounts. The kind that shows up day after day, even when no one is watching. And this little girl, she taught me how to love, how to listen, how to stay." Mia beamed and ran forward, weaving through legs and camera flashes until she reached them both. She grabbed Lila's hand with one and Ethan's with the other. "I like it when we are all together," she said. Lila turned to Ethan, blinking quickly. "You are still terrible at tying ribbons," she whispered, laughing through tears. "I am practicing," he replied. Their kiss was not dramatic. It was quiet, steady, like two people finally returning home after a long journey. That evening, as the sun dipped low beyond the city skyline, they walked down the sidewalk hand in hand. Ethan, Lila, and Mia in the middle, swinging their joined arms. With every step, Mia looked up at them, thoughtful. "So, does this mean I get to call you Daddy now?" she asked. Ethan paused, kneeling down to meet her eyes. "If you want to," he said. She nodded once, then launched herself into his arms. "Okay, Daddy." And as the last of the lights spilled over the quiet street, Ethan held her close, his hand reaching for Lila's, and he knew, with more certainty than he had ever felt in all his years of power and planning, that this was his greatest beginning. If this love story touched your heart, please do not forget to click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss more soul-stirring stories, emotional stories, and motivational stories just like this one that we truly enjoy reading. Every single comment you leave, your thoughts, your experiences, your emotions, they inspire us to keep creating heartfelt stories that bring people together from every corner of the world. So tell us, where in the world are you watching from today? Are you in a quiet town, a bustling city, or somewhere in between? We would love to know. And if you have ever had a second chance at love, or if you believe that fate has a way of bringing the right people back into our lives at the right time, we invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters here. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Until next time, stay kind, stay open, and never stop believing in the power of love. That we will see you in the next story.